No, but it does.
Daniel Tryon, he is the president of Green Sewing and a prospective member.
Welcome.
We have visiting, I'm sorry, Alex there.
I have a guest. Once again, I brought an employee that makes me look good every day in Beavercreek Township, our finance director, Terry Moulton.
Welcome, Terry. That's a tough job.
We also have a visiting Rotarian from Alabama, Lawrence Corley.
How you doing, Lawrence?
Right now, we're a little over 30%.
All right. Thank you very much, David. Sergeant at Arms, Don Adams. Thank you very much. Keep cleaning. We got a lot of guests today.
That was kind of underwhelming. Before we start, I'd like to take just a couple of minutes to remember 19 children and 2 teachers in Texas that were killed this week at a grade school. Senseless acts of violence like this against people, especially kids, it's got to stop. But I'd like to take a moment to remember the lives that were cut short. These children were between 8 and 10 years old. I cannot comprehend how anyone could really do this. And my heart goes out to the parents of these young people and the families of the teachers. I'm also concerned about the mental health of the first responders and the people in the hospitals that had to see these kids after this was done. So if you would, please just join me in a moment of silence for all of these people. Thank you. Today's May 27th, 2022. It's National Cellophane Tape Day. National Grape Popsicle Day. National Cooler Day. Cooler to put ice in. National Don't Fry Day. That's to stay out of the sun. And National Road Trip Day. It's a Friday before Memorial Day. Tomorrow, though, is all about the meat. It's National Beef Burger Day, National Brisket Day, and National Hamburger Day. Today's weather calls for rain. I think that's all we get around here is rain. At least it has been. And 70 degrees. It's going to have to really work to get there. Saturday's forecast looks really good for our Flags for Heroes ceremony at the Hope. It's supposed to be 74 degrees and sunny, and our own Brian Lampton and Mayor Bob Stone will be speaking at that. Monday's Memorial Day event at the Veterans Memorial on North Fairfield, put on by the city of Beavercreek, looks to be mostly sunny and 88 degrees. Mayor Stone will be the MC for the program, and Colonel Patrick Miller, the 88th Air Base Wing Commander and Installation Commander at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, will be the featured speaker. Colonel Miller actually has a new title as Brigadier General Select, so come out and see us for that. It starts at 2 p.m. And just remember, Monday is Memorial Day. We remember those who have given the ultimate sacrifice for our country. In news this week, today is the anniversary, believe it or not, of the tornado that destroyed several homes here in Beavercreek. I remember that night very well. I spent a lot of it, in fact, the whole thing over at the command center at Spicer Heights with the police department and the fire department. Top Gun is in theaters this weekend. I understand it holds up really well to the original. The Beavercreek academic team won its 6th straight state title this week. Paul, you're here somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah, you're doing some good job over there.
So they're way smarter than me.
That spans 1 coach, 3 captains, and 16 student athletes. That's quite an accomplishment. Also, skimmers are back in our gas stations. 2 have been found here in Southwest Ohio. The recommendation is not to use your debit card at gas stations. Use a credit card or pay cash. And if you're interested in seeing the inside of a B-17, you can get inside the Memphis Belle on June 4th through the 6th between 9 and 5. I've been in there and it's really worth going in to see. Today in history, Habeas Corpus Act passes in England, strengthening a person's right to challenge unlawful arrest and imprisonment. In 1907, the bubonic plague breaks out in San Francisco. In 1930, Richard Drew invented masking tape. In 1931, the first full-scale wind tunnel for testing airplanes was at Langley Field in Virginia. In 1933, Walt Disney's short film, Three Little Pigs, was released. Actually won the Academy Award for Best Animated Film in 1934. British and Allied forces began the evacuation of Dunkirk, Operation Dynamo, during World War II in 1937. In 2020, America's COVID-19 death rate or death toll passed 100,000. Some birthdays in the club this week. Barbara Del Mary was on the 26th. Irvin Gruel was on the 28th. Andrew Hunt was the 26th. Susan Phillips was the 26th. And Penny Rucker, the 28th. A couple of interesting facts about the United States. Figured I'd change it up a little bit this time. In 1783, the United States became the first country to gain independence from a European power. And did you know that the GPS is operated and maintained by the U.S. Air Force? That's something I didn't know. The current U.S. flag with 50 stars was designed by a Lancaster, Ohio high school student. That flag has had 27 different versions since it first debuted. Robert Ripley, an American cartoonist and entrepreneur known for Ripley's Believe It or Not, was born in California. At the age of 32, he made his first trip around the world. In 1929, through his cartoon, Believe It or Not, he said, "America has no national anthem." And soon after, about 2 years, the Star Spangled Banner became our national anthem. The phrase United States of America was first published anonymously in the Virginia Gazette newspaper in Williamsburg, Virginia, April 6, 1776. I think I know this. Did you know that more than 1/3 of adults in the United States are obese? Speaking of the tornado anniversary, the United States experiences the highest rate of tornadoes of any country in the world. On average, the country deals with more than 1,000 tornadoes every year. In fact, between 2000 and 2019, the average was 1,233 per year. Alaska has the longest coastline of any state, while Florida has the second longest. The United States is 9,833,517 square kilometers. That's more than twice the size of the European Union. Spanish is the second most common language spoken in the U.S. However, the U.S. does not have an official language. The U.S. is the world's largest consumer of cocaine. And the Everglades National Park is the only ecosystem in the world where alligators and crocodiles coexist side by side. Abraham Lincoln is the only U.S. president to own a patent and a saloon. 100 acres of pizza are served in the U.S. every day. Maybe that's why 1/3 of our citizens are obese. Almost all of Nevada is owned by the government. There's so much there that the government owns, it adds up to 80% of the entire state. More people live in New York City than in 40 of our 50 states. And finally, if you're interested in hunting unicorns, you can get a license at Lake Superior State University in Michigan. Courage is knowing what you might hurt and doing it anyway. Stupidity is the same. That's why life is hard. Will Rogers said, some learn by reading, some learn by observation. The rest of us have to pee on the electric fence. Exercise gives you energy, but you need energy to exercise. Sounds like a pyramid scheme to me. I do wish I was a kid, so every time I took a nap, everyone would be proud of me. The Institute of Unfinished Research has determined that 6 out of 10 people I pulled out a nose hair the other excuse me, I can't speak today. I pulled out a nose hair the other day just to see if it hurt. Judging from the reaction of the guy sleeping next to me, it really did. The lady in the commercial for the Life Alert necklace said she fell and could not get up. She laid there for 8 hours till her friend came by. My question is, why didn't the cameraman help her up? I was hacked the other day. I guess someone figured out my password. Now I've got to rename my dog. The other day, a guy at Kroger asked me if I knew where Engagement, Ohio was. I said somewhere between Dayton and Marion. Some of you have to think about it. An optimist is someone who figures out that taking a step backward after taking a step forward is not a disaster. It's a cha-cha. This one kind of hit home. I just realized that 1970 to 2022 are as far apart as 1970 and 1918. I think I'm going to need a minute here. A man and his wife were laying in bed one morning. The wife said, "I dreamt I was in China." The husband said, "I dreamt I was with 3 women." She said, "Was I one of them?" He said, "No, you were in China." After being married for 30 years, a wife asked her husband to describe her. He looked at her for a while and said, "You're an alphabet wife. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K." She responded, "What the heck does that mean?" He said, "Adorable, beautiful, cute, delightful, elegant, fabulous, gorgeous, and hot." She was really happy with this. She said, "That's so lovely, but what about the IJK?" "I'm just kidding." Visitation is next Tuesday at 2. There's no such thing as a grouchy old person. Truth is, once you get old, you stop being polite and start being honest. The female dormitory will be out of bounds for all male students. So too the male dormitory to female students. Anybody caught breaking this rule will be fined $20 the first time. Anybody caught breaking this rule the second time will be fined $60. Being caught a third time will incur a hefty fine of $180. Are there any questions? A male student in the back said, "How much for a season pass?" In deference to our speaker today, I had a couple extra things thrown in here. So the house near me is haunted by a ghost that only moves horizontally. It's called a spirit level. A local chap failed to pay the exorcist and ended up being repossessed. Ghosts are not good at lying. You can see right through them. Know why skeletons are so calm? No, nothing gets under their skin. How do spiders communicate? Through the World Wide Web. PSA for this weekend, it's Memorial Day weekend. Think before you do anything stupid because the judges don't come back in until Tuesday. As I always like to leave is a couple of positive thoughts. An optimist sees an opportunity in every difficulty. A pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. Forget all the reasons that it won't work and believe the one that says it will. The best preparation for tomorrow is doing your best today. Today's fines. If you've been to the Indianapolis 500, that's $1. If you've used masking tape in the last week, that's $1. If you've had pizza in the last week, that's $1. If your internet has been hacked, that's $1. If you've been to the Air Force Museum in the past week, that's $1. And if you're not wearing your Rotary pin, that's $1. And now to Steve.
Thank you very much. Happy bucks. Who's happy? Eric.
Actually, all of you should be happy. Next Friday, I'll be in Houston at the Rotary International Convention.
All right. Can we get a round of applause for that? Anyone else? Brandon?
I'm not happy about, there's another fun US fact. I always like this one. Which state is closest to Africa? Maine. Maine is the closest to Africa. If you look at the temperature of the earth, it's the closest. Can't make it up. And Cadillac Mountain in Canadian National Park is the first place in the US to get sunlight for about 6 months of the year. Cadillac Mountain.
Interesting. Cool. Didn't know that.
That takes $2 off my fine.
Yes. Anyone else?
I've got a happy 10 for the next 3 Fridays. I'm going to be in Europe traveling.
Nice.
Oh, I'll be thinking about you.
Where in Europe?
Everywhere.
Amsterdam?
Amsterdam would be nice.
Amsterdam was my favorite. Just to let you know, we do Zoom this meeting, so you can still join. Alex?
As you know, my daughter's getting married in Florida next year, and so this past weekend, my wife and the entire bridesmaids went down to Florida to look at a dress. My daughter said yes to the dress. I got a photo in the bill at the same time.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Anyone else? I got a happy buck. When I first joined this club, I used to work at the Hilton, and one of my chefs was really curious about Rotary. He's a Mason and just would always ask about Rotary. He ended up moving to Atlanta and messaged me, hey, which club should I join? I really want to join. Well, I hadn't heard from him in a couple of years, and he just texted me yesterday, and he, in June, he will be the president-elect of his club. So I was really excited about that. So. Somewhere in Atlanta, no idea. Oh, really? Yeah. Shannon, what do you got for me, sir?
Let's see here. Isaac is out of school.
There you go. Is that good or bad?
That means I can start my summer hours.
Nice.
Weather's nice. I think we're gonna be fortunate enough to get a nice weekend before the holiday. I got really nothing else.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I know, happy buck for everyone that came out and helped with installing the flags on Tuesday. It looks amazing. Yeah, so if you've not driven by, it's over at Be Hope Church off North Fairfield in Waunatt. We'll be there tomorrow at 4:30 for our Flags for Heroes ceremony. We've not done it the last couple of years, obviously because of COVID. I think one of the last times we had it, we had the fire truck there with the ladder and the flag, and then of course they got a call and had to leave. So we're all about service here. So, but again, Be Hope Church, 4:30. We'll have Brian Lampton as one of our speakers, and of course Mayor Stone. So look forward to seeing you guys out there. Anything else? All right, let's do the drawing here. Last 4 digits are 6342. 6342. And for our guests, we do technically gamble, but what it is, half the proceeds go to our annual Christmas basket. So
333.
we got a winner? 6342. Somebody's got it. Somebody has it.
I got it.
Oh, you got it? I saw you tearing it up.
Hot grows.
Hot grows, all right. As far as announcements, as I mentioned, Flags for Heroes, I do want to invite Lawrence up. He is a visiting Rotarian. Would you like to come up? He's got a little side note for us. So welcome to Beavercreek Rotary.
I'm from the Oxmoor Club in Birmingham, Alabama. We have about 10 clubs. And in our region, 3 Rotary past international presidents have been there, one of which is a member of our church several years ago. He's passed on. I'm here as leader of Builders for Christ. That's a network of about 1,100 volunteers who pay their way, they pay for their food, they pay for their lodging, give a week to God and build a church. We've been doing this 42 years, and this year's recipient is University Baptist Church in Kemp and Haynes Road. And we're building an 800-seat sanctuary worship center for the church with volunteers. There are about 20 of us who really know what's going on, and the rest of volunteers who've been repeating that for now these 42 years. We've been all in that time, we've finished about 80 projects from Maine to Denver, northern Wisconsin to project after Katrina in New Orleans. And this is our spiritual hobby. This church has grown threefold in the last 4 years. That is, they have about 800 now. They had about 250 just a few years ago, and they obviously needed more facilities. So we came as a spiritual mission to help them out with their work. And we thoroughly enjoyed our relationship with them. Thank you so much. And I'd like to present a flag of my club at home. And perhaps you have one that I could take back as a memory of being at Beaver Creek.
Yes, thank you. Welcome. I'm sure we can find one for you. All right, so I'm going to introduce our speaker today. We have Dr. Randy Overbeck, who is an award-winning educator, author, and speaker. As an educator, he served children for 4 decades in a range of roles captured in his novel, from teacher, from coach, to principal, to superintendent. So Paul, there might be some writing in your future. His thriller, Leave No Child Behind, in 2012, and his recent mysteries were #1 on Amazon as bestseller. Blood on the Chesapeake Bay, Crimson at Cape May, and Scarlet in Crystal River have all earned 5-star reviews and garnered national awards, including Thriller of the Year by ReaderFavorite.com, Gold Award by Literary Titan, Mysteries of the Year by ReadersView.com, and Crowned Heart of Excellence. As a member of the Mystery Writers of America, Dr. Overbeck is an active member in the literacy community, contributing to Writers Critique Group, serving as a mentor to emerging writers, and participating in writing conferences such as Slew Fest, is that right? Killer Nashville and Midwest Writers Workshop. When he's not writing or researching with his next excellent or exciting novel, or sharing his presentation, things still go bump in the night, which I believe is that on the table?
No.
Okay. And then he spends time with his incredible family, his wife of 3 children, their spouses, and 7 wonderful grandchildren. Without further ado, Dr. Randy Overbeck.
Thank you. We got to switch over here to get to my particular one. Before we start, I've got just one bit of housekeeping, please. On your table is a sign-up sheet. By the time I'm finished, you may be interested. I'm asking if you're interested in getting my newsletter, which comes out, if I'm good enough, once a month. I don't sell your address or give your to anybody else. So, okay, that's great. I think that's what I need. Oh, I gotta get my clips. I'm going to talk about ghosts. Before I start, I should explain. I don't pretend to be an expert. I'm not. But I do a lot of research for my books. And when I decided to write books that had some paranormal elements, I decided to do a lot of research about ghosts. And I'm going to share just a little bit of what I learned in that process. Let's see if we're going to work here. It doesn't want to work. Okay, all right. My first question is, do you believe in ghosts? If you believe in ghosts, raise your hand. Okay, nice and high. Ghosts. Okay, all right. You might be surprised to learn, judging from the number of hands, that they've done several surveys in this country. And both the two most recent surveys, you can see 03 and 17, came out with almost identical results. About half of everybody that was asked said they believe in ghosts. Right. The second question, anybody here ever had an actual encounter with a ghost? Seen a ghost, heard a ghost, felt a ghost, smelled a ghost? Some famous ghost encounters involve pipe smoking and similarly, two rather reliable survey groups, Baylor University and the AP did that survey asking that question. Have you had an encounter with a ghost? And again, the results are remarkably similar. 1 in 5 people in America said that they've had some kind of encounter with the spirit world. I kind of start off with that to kind of lay the groundwork, because this is not a unusual or rare phenomena. It is so common. All you have to do is turn on the television. There are about a dozen ghost hunting shows on almost every channel, on the Sci-Fi Channel, on the History Channel, on the Discovery Channel, on the British Channel. And then most recently, it's ghosting has gone mainstream. I don't know how many of you have seen this particular show called Ghosts, which is actually based on a British show of the same name. It is the most popular comedy on television. It's absolutely hilarious. If you haven't seen it, catch it in reruns. It's absolutely hilarious. But I share that with you today as a way of kind of laying the groundwork of saying, if you were a major network, you don't take a risk on a show about ghosts unless there's enough in the population to make it work. The other thing that has surprised me when I did my research for the book was I have run into organizations all over the country who are designed to hunt ghosts. I actually had some help from some of them in some of the research that I did. And I've taken this presentation all over the United States. I've done 10 or 12 states already, from New Jersey all the way to California. And every place I go, there's an organization like this. So here's an example. I'm sure I got some Ohio State people here. There's a ghost hunting group at Ohio State. I like this one because I like the noose hanging in the tree. That's from Fargo. Every place I've gone, there it is. The other thing that I discovered was that every religion, if you are a member of a faith community, every religion in the world has a belief in ghosts embedded in its doctrine and its dogma. It doesn't make any difference where you were raised or in what culture you were brought up in. All of these have some belief in ghosts, although the beliefs are not the same from religion to religion. I'm going to share a few examples. So I'm a Catholic. I was raised Catholic, and I can still remember, I don't know if there's anybody else in my age group that were Catholic, but when I was a young Catholic, you had to memorize the Baltimore Catechism. And in 4th grade, I had to memorize the Baltimore Catechism, and there was a line in the Baltimore Catechism that says, ghosts are demons or evil spirits that lead you to sin. I can talk loud enough anyway, so that's all right. Muslims have a very different belief in ghosts. They believe in a group of ghosts that they call jinns that live in a parallel world and like to cause mischief for the living. We actually know these jinns, only in our culture they're called genies. Buddhists have almost an exact opposite belief in ghosts that we do. So when I've done this presentation about 40 times, and every time I do that, someone comes up to me and shares an encounter that they've had with a ghost, almost every time. And almost always those encounters involve fear. they'll say I had this ghost that I was afraid, like the one guy this was about a month ago. I was thinking, he came up to me and said he was staying in this famous hotel in North Carolina or in North Dakota that's haunted. And he was in a room and he felt the presence and it scared him and he actually asked for a different room. I only share that by saying, if you were brought up as Buddhists believe that ghosts are suffering spirits, that we shouldn't be afraid of them. We should treat them with compassion. And then for Hindus believe that ghosts are associated with people, who have unnatural deaths, usually murders or suicides. Thank you very much. All right. Now, normally when I get to this point in the presentation, almost every time, I will get some people in the audience, usually male, that are doing this. Okay, which is the body language that says, only idiots and children would believe in ghosts. Okay, so I thought it might be worthwhile to share. This also kind of surprised me. There are a remarkable number of scientists, athletes, educated politicians, and you name it, who believe in ghosts. I'm just going to share a couple of examples with you. You might, if you're a NASCAR fan, you'd recognize this guy. His name is Dale Earnhardt Jr., or if you're an avid fan, it's just Junior. Here's what you might not know. 2004, he was on a practice track in South Carolina, and it was just he and his team, and he was making a lap. I don't know what mechanically went wrong, but something horribly went wrong with the car. He had a wreck. The car exploded, erupted in flames. His team is on the other end and run over. And when they get there, instead of being in the car, he's laying in the grass some 20 yards away from the car. When they are able to revive him, he said a ghost dragged him from the car and saved his life. And then later on in another interview, he said it was the ghost of his father. Ronald Reagan, when he was in the White House, he claimed to have seen a tall, transparent figure in the Lincoln bedroom, and he refused to go back in that room. Thomas Edison, who owns more patents than anyone else in the United States, 1,083 patents, also believed in ghosts. He confided to a reporter he was working on a spirit phone that would enable him to talk to the dead. And Paul McCartney, who recently shared that the ghost of John Lennon had literally helped him write some of his latest hits. So those are just a few examples of the ones I ran into. So that kind of brings me to, the piece de resistance. Every place I go, they say, well, okay, if there are ghosts, then how come we don't have more evidence that ghosts exist? I'm going to share with you some rather remarkable photographs of ghosts, but I will tell you that all the photographs are old. I do that on purpose, well, except for one. I do that on purpose because today the photography is so sophisticated that anybody could almost fake anything. So I wanted to use photographs that had been authenticated, that they had not been touched up, and that are way too old to have anything digital involved. So I'll give you a few examples. So my first one involves this young lady here. Her name is Lady Dorothy Walpole, also known as Dorothy Townshend, and you can see when she lived. She was a member of the landed class in England. And if you remember the landed class in England at that particular time, you never married for love. You married only for position, power, and money. And nearly all marriages were arranged. And it was very common in those days that many partners of arranged marriages stepped out on those marriages and had affairs, both men and women. It was kind of a nod, we understand kind of setup. Well, Dorothy did that as well. The thing that was different was, for some reason, I don't know the reason behind it, her husband was absolutely furious when he found out that she was stepping out on him. He was so furious that he had her locked up at a young age of 24 in one of his mansions, and she was never able to leave. And in fact, that mansion is now a visitor place in the museum and stuff. You can go. If you go to that mansion today, you may likely encounter the ghost of who they call the Brown Lady of Rantham Hall. There's a picture from 1936, and you can see very clearly the image of the ghost coming down, the ghost of the lady coming down the stairs. The second one was actually taken by a reverend who was touring churches in England and taking pictures in England. And he was actually taking pictures of that organ. He did not see the image that you see there on the right side of the organ when he was taking the photograph. But when he went home and developed it, incidentally, I found that's a very common situation. There very clearly is the look of a ghost with the look of a fiend. I was not able to discover, my research didn't uncover who that may possibly be. This other is my favorite. This is actually about one of those ghost hunting groups I was telling you about. This particular ghost hunting group in Chicago was asked to investigate a cemetery. You can see it was in 1991. They did what was typical. When they are asked to investigate, they come in the evening, usually at midnight. They stay for 3 hours. They bring all kinds of equipment, video equipment, photographic equipment, sound equipment, temperature equipment. I'll tell you about that in a minute. And they brought all of that and did this investigation in the cemetery. There were 3 men and it's in the middle of the night. There's no one there. Their report, when they never encountered a ghost, they did not see a ghost, but they went back and developed all their photographs. And this is one of the photographs that they took that evening. And you can see there's a very clear image of the ghost of a young woman weeping on a tomb. And they went back later and found out the tomb is actually a young man. So we assume she's weeping over her lover or boyfriend. Now this is the one I'm not sure it's going to work. So sometimes on the jump drive it doesn't work. We'll see. If it doesn't, I will relate this to you so you can kind of tell. Now this is one that I've kind of broken my rule because this is from 1919. This is a video that was taken in the middle of the night at a haunted elementary school in Cork City, Ireland. Okay, now teachers, students, and especially janitors had been saying this place was haunted. They caught this video, I hope it works, in the middle of the night. You'll see what time it is if it does work. And I get that, let's see. And I get this to work. Oh, good, okay. All right, now when this comes up, it's gonna play for a minute. Get this to full screen. Yeah, okay. So notice the time. You can see the date, January 10th, 3:07 in the morning. Okay. We don't have any sound.
Yeah, it's there.
Not done yet. How do I get back? Okay, so that was taken by the security camera. Almost all the schools, at least all the schools I was connected with, had security cameras. And security cameras are motion activated and only work and this is in the middle of the night. So you can kind of judge for yourself. So that kind of brings me full circle to share with you some of the common threads that I learned about belief systems about ghosts. I shared with you that the beliefs are not the same from continent to continent, religion to religion, country to country, but there are some things that are the same. This is the first. First one is that ghosts, they believe that ghosts are individuals who have passed on, but are stuck between this world and the next. So that it's not like, are they in some kind of suspended animation or in a coma? These are actually people who have died. The second one is something I found remarkable, and I have seen evidence of this, documented evidence of this over and over again. Ghosts have the ability to change the temperature in a room, some kind of flux in the air. When I met with one of the ghost hunting groups I was telling you about. It's actually a group that I had, the first one I had on the screen. It's from Central Indiana. They shared with me some of the research they had done on a place that was haunted. What I won't bother to tell you about all the stuff, but here's one of the things that just blew me away. So what they did to set this, they had in this place, they had caught voices haunted. They had gotten some motion, but what really convinced me was, so they set up a temperature thing. So they bring a very sensitive metric temperature, reading the temperature in the air. And so that there's no human error involved, they take a video camera and film that in a continuous loop for the 3 hours of the investigation. They showed several times when the ghost entered the room, the temperature, I saw this video. So the temperature in the room was 65, 60, something like that. In 10 seconds, the temperature dropped 20 degrees. And it would stay down for 2 minutes and then it would pop back up again. They don't really understand that. They think that, but my point is, and that was my first encounter. That was probably 5 years ago. Since then, I probably have read 100 instances of that same thing occurring in different ghost appearances. And pretty much, it's pretty well understood that ghosts have some kind of unfinished business that they need to resolve, and that's why they are still in this plane. So that brings me to my novels and how I came to write that. I write a group of novels called The Cold Case, The Haunted Shore Mysteries, and this description was actually one of the first reviewers. He called it a cold case murder mystery wrapped in a ghost story, served with a side of romance, all set in stunning resort locations. That's a pretty good description. My resort locations are different than most other places. I tried to pick places that people don't normally think of. So my first one is the eastern shore of the Chesapeake Bay. How many people have been to the eastern shore of the Chesapeake Bay? Yeah, not many. It is, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful places in this country, especially in the fall. If there isn't any place better than sitting on a sailboat in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay and watching the trees change all the way around. It's absolutely incredible. The second book is in Cape May, New Jersey. Cape May is the oldest resort in the United States. People have been coming to Cape May for 150 years and hardly anybody knows about it. What is one of the most interesting things that I found fascinating about Cape May, they have the largest collection of Victorian architecture in the United States. You can see a couple of them in the picture there. They have 160 of those houses in a town that has less than 5,000 people. It's a remarkable place. And the most recent one is in Crystal River, Florida, which is on the Gulf Coast of Florida, just about an hour or so north of Tampa. Another thing that distinguishes my work is I've always been a teacher. I had 40 years in education, so my heroes are always teachers. The hero of this book is a very unusual hero. He's a high school history teacher and coach who sees ghosts, but he's not happy about that particular ability. He is partnered with a young woman by the name of Erin Cavaney, who's an OB nurse, who's not as sensitive, but she kind of balances. She actually looks like that. That's actually Brie Larson, the actress, but it's pretty close to us. And also, one of the things that distinguishes my books is that each of the stories, even though they take place in 1999, 1998, 1999, each of the stories focus on a critical social issue that we are dealing with as a country. So the first one is about racism. The ghost that he has to help was actually lynched some 30 plus years earlier. The second murder that Daryl tries to unravel is tied to human trafficking. And the third one is about xenophobia, about illegal immigrants. As we mentioned, they have won 8 national awards from the Literary Titan, from Chanticleer, from Indie Tale, from Reader's View. And as a good number of, I think we're in close to 50 5-star reviews from professional reviewers. I'm going to give you just a kind of a quick little thing on each one, so it gives me my chance to do a little ad. So in 1919, this is the first book. It's the origin story. He encounters a ghost of a teen. Well, Daryl is a Midwesterner like you and I. He has a bad breakup with his girlfriend or fiance, wants to move away. He ends up settling on the Chesapeake Bay, finds this great job, only to find out that his office is haunted by a ghost that turns out to be a teen who had been lynched 30 years earlier. That particular book became the #1 bestseller on Amazon and Barnes and Noble last summer. It was followed right in the middle of the pandemic. Actually, the publisher released this in the middle of the pandemic in 2020. He takes a coaching job for a summer football coaching at Cape May, and he's stalked by another ghost, a woman that is murdered on her wedding night, and that became the second best-selling book ghost story in the United States, even better than Dean Koontz and Stephen King. And that was in September. And the new one, which came out last September, is called Scarlet and Crystal River, and it follows Daryl and Aaron on their honeymoon to Florida, where they happen to encounter the ghost of 2 murdered children. The books, I'm sorry, the books are $20 each. They're available on ebook, they're available on audiobook, and the publisher has just recently allowed me to put the 3 books together, and you can purchase all 3 of those for just $50. And let's see. Oh, I do have a few copies of the book that was mentioned in the intro. The first book, which is a very different book. It's a thriller about a terrorist takeover of a high school here in Ohio, and the teacher who works with the volunteers in the building and defeat the terrorists. It also did very well and won a National Award for Thriller of the Year in 2012. And the last thing, my latest is I have a new podcast out. Doesn't everybody? In my new podcast, it's called Great Stories About Great Storytellers. You'd probably like it. I share the kind of unusual and unknown, strange backstories of famous authors. So far there are 4 episodes out. The first one's on Grisham. The second one is on Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the author of Sherlock Holmes. The third one is on Walt Disney. It's funny that you had mentioned Disney, because there's a very interesting story about how Disney came about this close to going bankrupt. And my newest one out is on one of my favorite classic writers, Edgar Allan Poe, and a mystery about him that you've probably never heard of. So if you like podcasts, wherever you get podcasts, great stories about great storytellers, you'll see them. All right, my last piece is about this young man you might have heard of this author by the name of John Grisham, kind of an obscure guy, but you might have seen one of his books. I want to tell you the story about his first novel, a book called The Time to Kill. The Time to Kill is a story of 2 redneck, takes place in Mississippi, where John's from. 2 redneck teenagers, I think, or 20-year-olds, take this 12-year-old black girl, drag her behind their pickup truck and rape her. And her father finds out who they are, kills them. If you are interested in the book, I haven't spoiled it for you. What I just described happens in the first 12 pages, because the book is actually about the trial of this father. John was a very successful lawyer in Mississippi. In fact, he was, at the time that he was writing this book, a member of the House of Representatives from Mississippi. And he just said, I think I might want to write. And he created this book based actually on a real trial that he had seen. And he tried desperately to get this thing published. He said that he sent more than 60, of course, in those days, it was letters, not emails, letters and requests to publishers, to editors, to agents. Everybody turned him down. He says, if you come to my house, I heard this at a writing conference, you come to my office in my house in Mississippi, I have an entire wall papered with all the rejection slips, just so I know where I came from. Eventually, he got a Christian press in Florida to publish this book. I want you to think about the story that this book has in a Christian press. Now, they did what was normal in those days. They ran 5,000 copies. That was kind of standard. Well, it did not sell. John was absolutely beside himself. He couldn't believe that it wasn't selling. He was so upset that he quit his job. Now, I can imagine that was an interesting conversation around the Grisham dinner table. Honey, I know you put me through law school, but I got this thing I want to do. Anyway, he quit his job and he went to the publisher and said, just give me boxes of books. And he went around the South from small bookstore to small bookstore. And he went to them and said, look, just put 4 books up. If they sell, send the money to the publisher. If they don't sell, I'll come back and get them. as he tells the story somewhere in that sojourn, I think it was in Florida, an agent picked the book up, liked it, read it, got in contact with John and said, this is pretty good. I know this is already published, but do you have anything else? And John said, well, I'm just about finished with this book called The Firm. And the rest, as they say, is history. So that's kind of my long-winded way of saying, don't you today wish that you could get your hands on one of those 5,000 first edition copies of A Time to Kill? Well, you can't, but you can get mine, which is the next best. And it will be autographed, which will be worth a fortune someday. All right, I think I've saved enough time, as I was instructed to do, to see if anybody has any questions. Oh, wait, I got one more thing, and then I'll take questions. At your table, I've given everybody 2 freebies. Now, I'm hoping that I sell some books here, but even if you don't buy one, you can still help me out. Rotarian to Rotarian. If everyone here knows a mystery lover, I'm going to ask you to pick up those bookmarks and give them to somebody you know. Say, hey, we had this guy did this great presentation in Rotary. I know he's going to be a good author. You need to check him out. Pass those bookmarks on, because the only way a nobody like me gets any kind of recognition is word of mouth. So if you will do that for me, I will be very grateful. And now I will take your questions. If anybody has any.
That one show, Ghost Hunters, are all those shows relatively authentic? No.
Okay,
they're all
So,
crap.
no. Some are. No, I think if I have, first of all, I got to tell you, I've not stood and watched every one of all of those shows. Okay, I've kind of popped in and out. Some of them are actually trying to be relatively authentic, relatively scientific. Others are doing whatever they can that makes it look good for the camera. So it's a full range, I think. And I'm not going to tell you, well, go check this one out. I haven't found one that I said, oh, I don't really trust most of those because there is too much, media hype for them. I trust these ghost hunting groups because most of the ones I research, they don't charge you anything. This is just an avocation on their part. The one in Dayton Ghost Hunters, you can look it up. Costs $20 to belong. They have a monthly meeting. It's open to anybody. They'll come and do a paranormal check for you for no cost or little cost. Those people are ones I have been impressed with. I did forget to mention one thing about my books that I think are important. I'm not sure if I have anybody here that's ever read any ghost stories, but one of the things I found is that almost all ghost stories fall into one of 2 categories. Either on the one hand, you have the Stephen King, Dean Koontz ghost stories that scare the crap out of you and keep you up all night. And Shirley Jackson, there's several writers are in that category. Or you have a group that I call Casper the Friendly Ghost. So they have a ghost that it's a cozy, and they have a bookstore, and their grandma owned the bookstore and she died, and she comes and helps them solve mysteries. My ghosts are not like neither of those. Everything that happens in my books, that's not true. Almost every ghost thing that I have in my book is actually has been documented scientifically as the way humans interact with ghosts. So my ghosts don't solve the mysteries. None of those things happen. And I've tried to make that as real as the rest of the stories. Yes, ma'am.
Did you say your books have actually made it to film?
No, ma'am. No, they have not made it to film. Although I will tell you, I was going to share this with my Rotary Club next Tuesday. I just learned today that a marketing firm has picked up my books and they're marketing them at the Tribeca Film Festival next month. So fingers crossed. That's a really big long shot, but hey, anything's possible. Who knows? I'm an optimist. I'm not a pessimist.
You're a Rotarian.
It is possible to be a Rotarian and an optimist at the same time. Can I answer anybody else's question?
Have you ever encountered a ghost?
I have not personally encountered a ghost. This is not based on some deep-seated need of mine to express some experience I've had. My attempt here is to recreate as realistically as possible what I have learned from other people and from my research is how ghosts interact. Because I think, here's what I believe. This is my answer. Somebody asked me that. Shakespeare had it right. He says, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. There are just too many unexplained things to dismiss them out of hand. You had a question?
How did you get interested in this to begin with?
You mean writing or the ghost thing?
Writing in the-
Well, I've been a writer all my life. You might not know this, but when my work as an assistant superintendent, about 25 to 30% of my time was spent writing. Newsletters, menu, agenda, you name it, every aspect of my job involved writing. So that was kind of a natural, and I actually, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a writer. But then I had a family and, you had to get kind of real. The ghost thing was something I had not anticipated. I was actually working on the story about a lynching on the Chesapeake Bay, because there were actually 2 lynchings on the Chesapeake Bay. And I thought it would make a good mystery story. And I actually encountered the group that I told you about from Indiana. And I went, wow, what if I combine those 2? And that's kind of how it happened from there. The thriller is not a ghost story. My newest book that I'm actually shopping with agents right now is just an amateur sleuth mystery. And I'm in the middle of writing a new historical fiction. So I kind of do all different kinds of things. I think I'm out of time. I really appreciate it. Be around if you're interested, bring a book up, I'll sign it for you. I didn't say this. I can take cash, check, or credit card. Thank you very much. There you go.
All right, let's get another round of applause. Very interesting. We appreciate you taking the time, especially as a senior Rotarian, to come and speak today. So super interesting. I am not much of a reader, but I have an ex-girlfriend who is huge into thrillers. So I just text her. So we'll see if she responds back to me or not. But she has her own podcast as well. So all right. A book that is a little easier to read than those, which is my kind of book. We donate this to the Greene County Library for our speakers, and we'll have you sign it, but it's called "What is the Story of Scooby-Doo?" So probably not as spooky as yours, but that will be at the Greene County Library. Anything else for the good of the club? All right, let's rise for the pledge. Would you like to lead us?
Oh, there it is. Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.